Okay, everyone. On this occasion, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Robi Muharsha and my colleague Ratna. We will deliver the last topic in group fellowship training on the enhancement of NWP 2021. This topic not directly relate with what you studied before from others lecturer, but maybe this topic could be such a review for you because this topic kind of general study that maybe you have known much about what is climate model or regional model. We not take too deep for this lesson. However, we only review and warming up again some information regarding the climate model. Before we start discuss about the climate model, we need to share the perception that climate model is extensive topic. Climate models came in variety of size and degrees of complexity. So, in this opportunity, only small part of climate model that we will learn. At now, we can easily find website, video, or even textbook that discuss about the climate model. This is some example of textbooks we can refer to know more about the climate model, like Kendall, McGavie, and Henderson Saylor, or Stoker, or Andreas Smithner about the climate model from concept to codes, or we can find many results about the climate models in YouTube maybe, or in several websites. We limit our discussion only for introduction to climate model. We have 7 subtopics here. First, we discuss about weather versus climate. Second, climate change and extreme weather. We continue with why do we model the climate system. And 4 is component of the climate system. 5, global radiation balance of the climate system. 6, purpose and limitation of climate modeling. 7, some current example in climate modeling. And in part 2, my colleague Rana will continue about the regional climate model. So we start with the term of climate and weather. Weather describe current atmospheric conditions such as rainfall, temperature, and wind speed at the particular place and time. It changes day to day. Meanwhile, climate is the average or normal pattern of weather for a particular place over several decades. Changes in climate are hard to detect without very long-term records. Simple diagram in figure B, we can make analogy that weather and climate like a person walking a dog. Weather is a dog's steps and climate is the man's step. In 1974, Heinlein said that climate is what you expect and weather is what you get. One way to understand the difference between weather and climate variability and climate change is to think about how they operate on different time scale. The big arrow in figure A refers to different period of time, days, months, years, decades, and centuries. We can see here that weather refers to hours, days, and maybe months. Climate refers to months, years, decades, and climate change refers to decades and centuries. Example of weather are rainstorm that may be last 1 or 2 hours and tropical cyclone that may last days. Climate variability can be defined by climate patterns such as El Nino, and climate change refers to things which happen over centuries like global warming. We are now going to take a closer look at the edge of this time scale. The graph in figure A shows an example of change in air temperature over 5 days. On the vertical axis, the temperature is displayed, and the horizontal axis are the 5 days. These show the influence of weather as well as the daily, also called diurnal cycle. For example, the minimum daily temperature and maximum daily temperature are different on each day. Some days are warmer and then others, then there is a variability from hour to hour. The graph in figure B, the time scale has been expanded to show temperature change over 5 years. The blue line shows the daily temperature variation and the red line shows the average daily temperature over the 5 years. Daily temperature vary greatly, but the daily average clearly show that some parts of the year are regularly warmer than others. Over long periods such more than 100 years, see figure C in D, we can see the year-to-year variability more clearly. We can calculate the long-term mean or average climate, and we can see whether there is a trend in the mean climate. In figure C, there is warming trend in Jakarta City, which identified by the red line going up. This shows an increase of more than 2 degrees Celsius over more than 100 years. Furthermore, in figure D, we also see changing in the time Rx1 day and Rx2 days. We know that Rx1 day is maximum daily rainfall, and meanwhile Rx2 days is maximum total 2-day rainfall as a tribute of extreme event. We can see there is increasing of extreme event, in particular after 1980s. Example in figure C and D in previous slide is very likely an indication that climate change has been occurred in Jakarta City. Globally, since the Industrial Revolution, the global surface temperature has risen significantly over the past several decades. Figure A shows that since early 1990s, scientists have been able to clearly show a rise in the average global temperature due to human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. With the Earth getting hotter, heat waves become more intense and more frequent. High temperature evaporate more water, so average global rainfall increase too. With more energy and water vapor in the system, circulation pattern changes how weather system develop, causing severe storm in some regions and drought in others. That's why the climate change associated with this warming may have profound impacts on society. For example, the frequency of extreme events like flood, storm, or drought in this figure B. Understanding how climate responds to change in composition of the atmosphere and other factors has driven climate research and bring researchers for several decades ago to learn how the modeling climate system. So why do we model the climate system? Yeah, climate models provide a tool to understand how processes work and interact with each other. For example, El Niño certain oscillation is a mode of climate variability that strongly influences weather in North America and beyond. It results from complex interaction of atmosphere and ocean. So we can check this animation. This animation shows observed wind, ocean temperature, and current across the equatorial Pacific. Successfully modeling the complex interaction that result in ENSO allow the researchers to understand the roles of the processes involved and how they interact. Before we learn how to modeling the climate system, we need to understand basic concept of climate system. In this lecture, we will review the components of climate system. This figure shows a schematic representation of the climate system components that the climate modelers must consider. The climate system have 5 major components, i.e. atmosphere, hydrosphere, cryosphere, land surface, and biosphere. However, today scientists agree that climate system has the 6th component, which is particularly relevant for assessing the future change. This component, namely the anthroposphere. Most of the climate models treat processes and flux of the anthroposphere as an external forcings, i.e. the models are run by prescribing atmospheric concentration and emission of carbon dioxide. For the past, the calculation is based on the document data and paleoclimatic information of volcanic eruptions. For the future, it is based on the statistic of such event. A complete climate model contains basically description of all 5 components mentioned above and consider their coupling. Some components may be described in a simplified form. Not all equations in climate science require a model comprising all components. Its climate system component operates on a range of characteristics, temporal and spatial scale. The knowledge of this scale is necessary for a correct formulation of climate model. Before to further learn how to build the climate model, we need to understand who is the main actor in climate system. It is bring us to discuss about global radiation balance of the climate system. Next, we discuss about several processes and functions of global radiation in the climate systems. We know that the sun doesn't hit the earth evenly because the earth is a sphere. The sun hits equatorial region more than polar regions. The atmosphere and ocean work non-stop to even out solar heating imbalance through the evaporation of surface water, convection, rainfall, winds, and ocean circulation. This coupled atmosphere and ocean circulation is known as the Earth heat engine. This figure illustrates the energy received by the Earth. When incoming solar energy is balanced by an equal flow of heat to space, Earth is in radiative equilibrium and global temperature is relatively stable. There are several processes and functions of global radiation in climate system. First, incoming sunlight. Second, heating imbalance. Third, Earth's energy budget. Fourth, surface energy budget. Fifth, the atmosphere energy budget, and the sixth, the natural greenhouse gases. We will discuss this one by one. Okay, first incoming sunlight. The sun temperature is about 5,800 Kelvin. The average intensity of solar energy reaching the top of the atmosphere directly facing the sun is about 1,360 watt per square meter. This amount of power is known as the total solar irradiance and was sometimes called as the solar constant. The total solar irradiance is the maximum possible power that the sun can deliver to the planet at the Earth's average distance from the sun. Only half the Earth is always lit by the sun at one time. Because the Earth is a sphere, only areas near the equator at midday came close to being perpendicular to the path of incoming light. Everywhere else, the light comes in at an angle. Anything that increase or decrease the amount of incoming or outgoing energy disturb Earth's radiative equilibrium. Global temperature must rise or fall in response. Next, heating imbalance. The annual amount of incoming solar energy varies from tropical to polar latitudes. At mid and high latitude, it also varies from season to season, like so in this figure, figure A. Figure A also shows us how the solar energy received at the local noon each day of the year change with the latitude. At the equator, the peak energy changes very little through the year. At the high northern and southern, the seasonal change is extreme. You can see this green and blue line. Then we also know that the Earth axis is still off vertical by around 23.5 degrees. What the effect of the tilt to the Earth? Yes, tilt makes the season, winter and summer on the Earth. And as the Earth orbits the Sun, the tilt causes one hemisphere then the other to receive more directly sunlight and to have longer days like we have seen in figure B. The net heating imbalance between the equator and the poles drive an atmospheric and oceanic circulation that climatic scientists describe as a heat engine. The climate is an engine that uses heat energy to keep the atmosphere and ocean moving. Evaporation, convection, rainfall, winds, and ocean currents are all part of the Earth's heat engine. Now we talk about Earth energy budget. What is it? Earth's heat engine not only moving heat from one part of the surface to another, but also move the heat from the Earth's surface and lower atmosphere layer back to space. See this figure? This flow of incoming and outgoing energy is called as the Earth's energy budget. Incoming energy and outgoing energy must be balanced. This state of balance is called as radiative equilibrium. As seen in this figure, about 29% of the solar energy that arrives at the top of atmosphere is reflected back to space. Then, about 71% of the total incoming solar energy is absorbed by the Earth system. 23 of 71% is absorbed in the atmosphere by water vapor, dust, and ozone, and the rest, 48%, pass through the atmosphere and is absorbed by the surface. So now we talk about surface energy budget. To understand how the Earth's climate system balance the energy budget, so we have to consider processing occurring at the three levels. First, the surface of the Earth, where the most solar heating takes place. Second, the edge of the Earth's atmosphere, where the sunlight enters the system. And third, the atmosphere in between. The amount of incoming and outgoing energy or net flux must be equal at each level. For the energy budget at the Earth's surface to balance, process on the ground must eliminate the 48% of incoming solar energy that the ocean and land surface absorb. Energy leaves the surface through the three processes: evaporation 25%, convection 5%, and emission of thermal infrared energy around 17%. So this is we call as the surface energy budget. And then we move to atmosphere energy budget. Just as the incoming and outgoing energy at the Earth's surface must balance, the flow of energy into the atmosphere must be balanced by an equal flow of energy from the atmosphere and back to space. The atmosphere radiates the equivalent around 59% of incoming solar energy back to space as thermal infrared energy or heat. Where does the atmosphere get its energy? Yeah, the atmosphere directly absorbs about 23% of incoming sunlight, and remaining energy is transferred from Earth's surface by the evaporation around 25%, convection 5%, and thermal infrared radiation around 5 until 6%. So if we total this energy, we will get the number around 59%. The remaining thermal infrared, the energy from the surface, this one around 12%, pass through the atmosphere and escape to the space. Okay, this is the last point about the global radiation balance of the climate system. We discuss about the natural greenhouse effect. One of the most important process that influence of global radiation balance of climate system is the natural greenhouse effect. The natural greenhouse effect is an important part of the Earth's climate. Without it, the planet would be a far colder place. Some gas in the atmosphere, we can see this orange, the gas, such as carbon dioxide, water, vapor, and methane, absorb the infrared radiation or heat, which is converted into the kinetic and potential energy. Eventually, these molecules then emit heat back into the atmosphere as infrared radiation. Some of this infrared radiation is absorbed by the other greenhouse gases, and some is absorbed at the Earth's surface, and the cycles absorption, conversion, and emission are repeated. So, the problem we now face is that human activities, particularly burning fossil fuel like coal, oil, and natural gas, agriculture, and then land clearing or deforestation. These activities are increasing the concentration of greenhouse gases, and then the enhanced greenhouse effect. This bar in this figure show that since the mid of 1800s, the average concentration of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere has risen. See the pink color, the pink bar. That's why 99% of scientists now agree that humans have changed Earth's atmosphere in the dramatic ways over the past 2 centuries, resulting in global warming. Okay, this is the end of topic introduction to climate modeling. We need to now purpose and limitation climate modeling. So the question is it possible to make a perfect climate modeling? This figure shows a chronology of climate model development. The implementation of new components like carbon cycle, vegetation, and atmospheric chemistry leads to increase the complexity and increase in required computational resources. Until around early 20th centuries, climate science were primarily concerned with the study of past climate state, mostly using geological, geographical, and botanical methods. Like any mathematical model of natural system, a climate model is a simplification. The degree of accepted simplification determines the complexity of the model and restrict the applicability of the model to specific question. So before we close our topic, we will give an example in climate modeling. We can say that prediction of ENSO is the most successful experiment in climate modeling. For the first time, the ENSO event at 9798 could be predicted 6 months in advance. This time span allows the affected region to take precaution or preparation to and adapt to the expected climatic consequence like drought, floods, poor harvest, and increased prevalence of malaria by unusually high temperature. This success was enabled by intensive research in the theory on ocean-atmosphere coupling in the tropics, model development, and setup of dense observation network in the tropical Pacific. And now, until now, we still use the ENSO prediction to know what happened in next 6 months ahead. Like this figure, this is from IRI website. We can see what will happen with the ENSO for coming months. Okay, we have some key point here. We have 3 key points. First, one way to understand the difference between weather, climate variability, and climate change is to think about how they operate on different time scales. Second, since we cannot conduct whole Earth experiments, climate model is our attempt to understand how Earth's climate system works, such as Earth energy budget. And third, climate models are constrained by the observation in the real world and can also help inform further observational efforts. Okay, that's all our topic for introduction to climate modeling. You can follow some reference in here. Many literature will explain us in a website, YouTube, and others about what is a climate model. Okay, thank you from me. Thank you for your time to listen this video. Hope we can discuss more about introduction to climate model. See you.